Hello dear friend, and welcome to On This Day SMR with me, Edward Hertz, where we take a look back through history at events which took place on this day. The rain is gently pittering and pattering away on the window, and the fire is crackling away nicely in the hearth. So put your headphones on, sit back, relax, and let me take you on a journey back through time. Today is Wednesday the 14th of February 2024, and we have 67 events to cover, going all the way back to the year 748. Starting with the most recent event, which happened 5 years ago in 2019, Pulwama attack takes place in Lefpora in Pulwama district, Jammu and Kashmir, India, in which 40 Central Reserve Police Force personnel and a suicide bomber were killed and 35 were injured. 6 years ago in 2018, Jacob Zuma resigned as president of South Africa. In the same year, a shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, is one of the deadliest school massacres, with 17 fatalities and 17 injuries. 13 years ago in 2011, as part of the Arab Spring, the Bahraini uprising begins with a day of rage. 16 years ago in 2008, the Northern Illinois University shooting. The gunman opens fire in a lecture hall of Northern Illinois University in DeKalb County, Illinois, resulting in 6 fatalities, including the gunman, and 21 injuries. 19 years ago in 2005, in Beirut, 23 people, including former Prime Minister Rafik Hariri, are killed when the equivalent of around 1,000 kilograms of TNT is detonated while Hariri's motorcade drives through the city. In the same year, 7 people are killed and 151 wounded in a series of bombings by suspected Al-Qaeda-linked militants that hit Makati, Davao City and General Santos, all in the Philippines. Again in the same year, YouTube is launched by a group of college students, eventually becoming the largest video sharing website in the world and the main source for viral videos. 20 years ago in 2004, in a suburb of Moscow, Russia, the roof of the Transvaal water park collapses, killing more than 28 people and wounding 193 others. 21 years ago in 2003, in the Iraq disarmament crisis, UNMOVIC Executive Chairman Hans Blix reports to the United Nations Security Council that disarmament inspectors have found no weapons of mass destruction in Barfist, Iraq. 24 years ago in the year 2000, the spacecraft NEAR Shoemaker enters orbit around asteroid 433 Eros, the first spacecraft to orbit an asteroid. 26 years ago in 1998, an oil tanker train collides with a freight train in Yaoundé, Cameroon, spilling fuel oil. One person scavenging the oil created a massive explosion which killed 120. 34 years ago in 1990, 92 people are killed when Indian Airlines Flight 605 crashes in Bangalore, India. In the same year, the Voyager 1 spacecraft takes the photograph of planet Earth that later becomes famous as Pale Blue Dot. 35 years ago in 1989, Union Carbide agrees to pay $470 million to the Indian government for damages it caused in the 1984 Bhopal disaster. In the same year, Iranian leader Ruhollah Khomeini issues a fatwa encouraging Muslims to kill Salman Rushdie, author of the Satanic Verses. 41 years ago in 1983, United American Bank of Knoxville, Tennessee collapses. Its president, Jake Butcher, is later convicted of fraud. 45 years ago in 1979, in Kabul, Sitami militants kidnap the American ambassador to Afghanistan, Adolf Dubs, who was later killed during a gunfight between his kidnappers and police. 58 years ago in 1966, Australian currency is decimalised. 63 years ago in 1961, discovery of the chemical elements, element 103, lawrencium, is first synthesized at the University of California. 70 years ago in 1954, in the First Indochina War, small French garrison at Dak Doa is overrun by the Viet Minh after a week's siege. 75 years ago in 1949, the Knesset, Parliament of Israel, convenes for the first time. In the same year, the asbestos strike begins in Canada. The strike marks the beginning of the Quiet Revolution in Quebec. "77 years ago in 1947, the act abolishing all noble ranks and related styles comes into force in Hungary. 78 years ago in 1946, the Bank of England is nationalised. 79 years ago in 1945, in World War II, on the first day of the bombing of Dresden, the Royal Air Force and the United States Army Air Forces begin firebombing Dresden. In the same year, also in World War II, navigational error leads to the mistaken bombing of Prague, Czechoslovakia by a United States Army Air Forces squadron of B-17s assisting in the Soviet Red Army's Vistula Oder offensive. Again in the same year and again in World War II, Mostar is liberated by Yugoslav partisans. Also in 1945, President Franklin D. Roosevelt meets King Ibn Saud of Saudi Arabia aboard the USS Quincy, officially beginning US-Saudi diplomatic relations. 80 years ago in 1944, in World War II, in the action of 14th February 1944, a Royal Navy submarine sinks a German-controlled Italian Regia Marina submarine in the Strait of Malacca. "81 years ago in 1943, again in World War II, Rostov-on-Don, Russia, is liberated. In the same year, also in World War II, in the Tunisia campaign, General Hans-Jürgen von Arnim's 5th Panzer Army launches a counterattack against Allied positions in Tunisia. 82 years ago in 1942, again in World War II, the Battle of Pasir Panjang contributes to the fall of Singapore. 85 years ago in 1939, again in World War II, German battleship Bismarck is launched. 95 years ago in 1929, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. 7 people, 6 of them gangster rivals of Al Capone's gang, are murdered in Chicago. 100 years ago in 1924, the Computing, Tabulating, Recording Company changes its name to International Business Machines Corporation, or IBM. "104 years ago in 1920, the League of Women Voters is founded in Chicago. 105 years ago in 1919, the Polish-Soviet War begins. 106 years ago in 1918, Russia adopts the Gregorian calendar. 112 years ago in 1912, Arizona is admitted as the 48th and the last contiguous US state. In the same year, the US Navy commissions its first class of diesel-powered submarines. 121 years ago in 1903, the United States Department of Commerce and Labor is established, later split into the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor. 124 years ago in the year 1900, the British Army begins the Battle of the Tagula Heights in an effort to lift the siege of Ladysmith. 125 years ago in 1899, voting machines are approved by the US Congress for use in federal elections. 145 years ago in 1879, the War of the Pacific breaks out when the Chilean army occupies the Bolivian port city of Antofagasta. 148 years ago in 1876, Alexander Graham Bell applies for a patent for the telephone, as does Elisha Gray. 165 years ago in 1859, Oregon is admitted as the 33rd US state. 169 years ago in 1855, Texas is linked by telegraph to the rest of the United States with the completion of a connection between New Orleans and Marshall, Texas. 172 years ago in 1852, Great Ormond Street Hospital for Sick Children, the first hospital in England to provide inpatient beds specifically for children, is founded in London. 175 years ago in 1849, in New York City, James Knox Polk becomes the first serving president of the United States to have his photograph taken. 189 years ago in 1835, the original quorum of the 12 Apostles in the Latter-day Saint movement is formed in Kirtland, Ohio. 193 years ago in 1831, Raz Mary of Yeju marches into Tigray and defeats and kills Desajmak Sabagadis in the Battle of Debre Abbey. 220 years ago in 1804, Karađorđe leads the first Serbian uprising against the Ottoman Empire. 227 years ago in 1797, in the French Revolutionary Wars, Battle of Cape St. Vincent, John Jervis, later first Earl of St. Vincent, and Horatio Nelson, later first Viscount Nelson, lead the British Royal Navy to victory over a Spanish fleet in action near Gibraltar. 245 years ago in 1779, in the American Revolutionary War, the Battle of Kettle Creek is fought in Georgia. 245 years ago in 1779, James Cook is killed by native Hawaiians near Kealakekua on the island of Hawaii. "246 years ago in 1778, the United States flag is formally recognized by a foreign naval vessel for the first time, when French Admiral Toussaint Guillaume Piquet de la Motte renders a 9-gun salute to USS Ranger, commanded by John Paul Jones. "369 years ago in 1655, the Mapuches launch coordinated attacks against the Spanish in Chile, beginning the Mapuche Uprising of 1655. 411 years ago in 1613, the wedding of Princess Elizabeth and Frederick V of the Palatinate at Whitehall Palace, London. 468 years ago in 1556, having been declared a heretic and laicized by Pope Paul IV on the 4th of December 1555, Archbishop of Canterbury Thomas Cranmer is publicly defrocked at Christ Church Cathedral. In the same year, the coronation of Akbar as ruler of the Mughal Empire. 494 years ago in 1530, Spanish conquistadores led by Nuno de Guzman overthrow and execute Tangaxuan II, the last independent monarch of the Tarascan state in present-day central Mexico. 675 years ago in 1349, several hundred Jews are burned to death by mobs, while the remaining Jews are forcibly removed from Strasbourg. 894 years ago in 1130, the troubled 1130 papal election exposes a rift within the College of Cardinals. 1010 years ago in 1014, Pope Benedict VIII crowns Henry of Bavaria, King of Germany and of Italy, as Holy Roman Emperor. "1,182 years ago in 842, Charles the Bald and Louis the German swear the oaths of Strasbourg in the French and German languages. 1,276 years ago in 748, in the Abbasid Revolution, the Hashimi rebels under Abu Muslim Khorasani take Merv, capital of the Umayyad province Khorasan, marking the consolidation of the Abbasid revolt. So that is all we have for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you found our little trip back through history both relaxing and informative. If you did indeed like the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and also consider leaving a comment below. All feedback is very much welcome. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. It will really help the channel grow and will ensure that you are notified of future videos. Be sure to turn on notifications so that you are notified of future videos as soon as they are posted. Thank you again, and I hope to see you next time.